Okay. Thank you, Ray, again, and hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. As Ray stated, my name is Bruce Friend, and I'm the president of Media and Entertainment for a new market research firm called Maru VC, which is quite a mouthful, and until a few months ago was actually the North American Research and Consulting Division of Vision Critical, a company I suspect most, if not all of you, might be familiar with. And I want to start off my presentation today by saying that I'm not really an expert in agility, automation, or artificial intelligence. However, throughout my career, I've always been on the leading and often controversial edge of innovation and disruption in the market research field. And having worked within the movie industry for the past 20 years, I've also seen a lot of movies. So from that, and because I live in Hollywood and work in the fantasy land known as Hollywood, this is my take on today's topics, and in particular, artificial intelligence, or AI. So the way I see it, agility allows for an always-on platform-based longitudinal approach to research and insights generation, while automation simply enables the integrated collection of behavioral, attitudinal, self-reported, biometric, neurological, and other types of human data streams in real time for continuous collection, analysis, and reporting. And both of these will continue to improve better, faster analytics and forecasting and predictions, and continue to drive down the cost and time of data delivery and creation. And as IBM says, build a smarter planet. But these two things and their respective benefits are not artificial intelligence, and let's not make the mistake of thinking that they are. AI is the capacity of a supercomputer to perform operations analogous to learning and decision-making behaviors in humans, as by an expert system, a program for computer-assisted design or manufacturing, a program for the perception and recognition of shapes in computer vision systems, and other such functions. Furthermore, there are two categories of AI, non-sentient, which is what we primarily have today, and sentient, which is what is being developed for tomorrow. IBM Watson, which is seen here, is a good example of non-sentient AI today. So AI advancements over the next half century will have a profound implication for the future of our world. Therefore, as researchers, we need to start thinking about these implications now, specifically with respect to how will they affect and further disrupt our industry and our respective businesses? How will we capitalize on them when they happen? And what role will we researchers play, if any, once AI truly becomes a reality? Here are some highly plausible AI-driven predictions by Ray Kurzweil and others over the next 30 years that will significantly affect the MR industry and all of us. By the later part of this decade, glasses will beam images directly into the retina. 10 terabytes of computing power, roughly the same as the human brain, will cost about $1,000. The Internet of Things will become the Internet of Everything, which, as Qualcomm says, is when smart things everywhere are connected together, we will be able to do more and be more, enabling a digital sixth sense. I like that nice marketing term, digital sixth sense. Similar to that achieved by the actor Johnny Depp in the film Transcendence before the plot became completely unintelligible in the third act. By the 2020s, most disease will go away as nanobots become smarter than current medical technology. Normal human eating will be replaced by nanosystems, which is going to be quite a problem for all these food shows on TV. Self-driving cars will begin to take over the roads, and people won't be allowed to drive on highways. Most people shouldn't be allowed to drive on highways probably now. But and the Euclid Space Telescope will reveal new insights into dark matter and dark energy. And the Turing test will become obsolete, as the movie Ex Machina so adroitly demonstrates, while getting a 93% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. It's a really great sci-fi movie, by the way. If you haven't had a chance to see it, I highly recommend it. Yes, by the 2030s, virtual reality will start to feel 100% real. Fossil fuels will be obsolete, and the world will be powered mostly by solar and wind. And most new vehicles will be electric. Thousands, perhaps millions of people will have a life expectancy now of 150 years, and there will be robots that are physically indistinguishable from humans. Learning a second language will no longer be necessary, replaced by a teeny computer in your ear, and we will be able to upload our mind and consciousness to the cloud by the end of the decade, as the title character in the film Lucy did. As you can see here, Lucy was played by Scarlett Johansson, and I must add, a very interesting casting choice to play the most intelligent person in the world. By the 2040s, biological intelligence will be 1 billion times more capable than biological intelligence. In other words, us humans. Nanotech phoglets will be able to make food out of thin air and will be able to create any object in the physical world at a whim. Virtual telepathy is now a dominating personal communication mode. Reverse aging is possible, making time and not money the new monetary currency, as depicted in the somewhat forgettable movie In Time, a movie that no one saw, nor should they have. We will multiply our intelligence 1 billion-fold by linking wirelessly from our neocortex to a synthetic neocortex in the cloud, at which point we reach the point of singularity when humans transcend biology and have the capacity to become essentially one with the machine. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves here. If we go back and just think about the changes in the next 10 years, what companies do you think are in the best position today to benefit the most in this market research space? So I have a theory that Google and many of these other companies you see here on this slide are the Kaiser Sose of AI. For those of you who don't know Kaiser Sose, was the mythical character in a very great movie called The Usual Suspects. And we basically we see these companies as one thing today, but they may become something else, you know, completely different tomorrow, or certainly morph into something different tomorrow. A week ago, Apple acquired a Seattle-based artificial intelligence company called Turi in a deal reported to be worth about $200 million. And in response, Apple said, Apple buys smaller technology companies from time to time, and we generally do not discuss our purpose or plans. Also last week, AT&T announced it will provide near real-time connectivity for healthcare data delivered via wearable device through a partnership with Biotricity, a diagnostic and consumer tech firm. Also, the fact that Google hired Ray Kurzweil and Facebook hired Yoon Lekan, a few years back is in and of itself quite telling. Therefore, one can make the strong argument that these and a few other established tech companies could become the major players in the MR industry by the next decade. For one reason, that it supports the monetization of many of their other business lines, and for another, they simply have all the coders, data, scientists, and money to do so. And as stated earlier, many of them have already started down this path, both overtly and perhaps secretly. So we shouldn't be too surprised if this in fact happens. So by now I'm sure you're all asking yourself, what does this have to do with the movie Final Fantasy, The Spirits Within, which was sort of the focus of the title of my presentation today. So 15 years ago I worked on this movie, and it was heralded as the first feature film to ever star photorealistic humans who were 100% CGI based. And to this day, it remains the most expensive video game-inspired movie of all time. The producer Square Pictures rendered the film using the most advanced processing capabilities for film animation at the time. And keep in mind, this is 15 years ago. And it took a staff of about 200 people 4 years to render all 142,000 frames to complete the film. Square hoped that the female lead character, and I find this quite laughable, the animated lead character Aki Ross, pictured to the right here, will become the world's first photorealistic CGI animated actress, with plans to cast her in future films. The Spirit Within was widely praised for the incredible realism of the computer animated characters. And I have to say, being in Hollywood and working on the movie at the time, there was certainly a lot of concern from all the talent agencies whether this movie would succeed or not, because obviously if we could actually create actors instead of having to use real ones, they would have no one left to represent. So the movie, however, debuted to a critical sort of mixed reception, and it only grossed $85 million at the box office. With a total print and advertising cost of $200+ million, it still stands as one of the 10 biggest box office bombs of all time, and quickly sent Square Pictures into bankruptcy. So why did Final Fantasy Spirits Within fail so miserably? So much so that no one has attempted another movie like it since. And what exactly can we researchers learn from this? So after spending, and I kid you not, after spending $500,000 on research at Sony on this picture, which is more than some companies have for their entire research budget, we learned that the movie was a technological wonder, and it looked amazing. However, it just wasn't able to connect emotionally with viewers. And the script, quite honestly, wasn't that great either. But the matter of the fact is that while the actors looked human and acted human and sounded human, they did use real actors for the character voiceovers, by the way, they just simply weren't human. They just looked too artificial, not real or compelling enough for audiences to seemingly care. Some even found it creepy and weird, which is consistent with the uncanny valley hypothesis, which, for those of you who don't know what it is, states that as human replicas or robots become more like, but not exactly like real humans, they increasingly elicit feelings of eeriness or revulsion among many of us. The valley denotes the dip in our affinity for these replicas, a relationship, however, that begins to improve or begins improving once these replicas start becoming truly indistinguishable from us. So the lesson here is that just because technology can enable us to do something, it doesn't mean that we should do it or that it's even the right thing to do. AI technology is still decades away, if ever, from fully emulating or replacing the human experience around emotions, reasoning, feelings, and senses such as taste, smell, and touch, among other things. And this clearly applies to the role we researchers will continue to play in the years and decades to come. So while we can and should continue to use technology to facilitate the fast and efficient creation, collection, and delivery of information and intelligence, we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that it still takes human beings to truly understand human beings. And I personally really hope it always will to some degree. We also shouldn't lose sight of the fact that there will always be an artistic and heuristic component to generating insights and knowledge from data that machines just can't emulate. As such, new research methods, and not just technology, and industry sector-specific research experience and expertise will continue to be in great demand to help companies make sense of our ever-growing avalanche of data over the next 30-plus years. And if and when a sentient AI machine does take over, God help us all, or we might end up like the characters in this movie Sausage Party, which, by the way, has made over $45 million here in the States since its opening a week ago. I kid you not. And though I'm afraid to think what that says about the future of mankind. Or worse still, we could end up like the people in this popular video game Deus Ex about human cyborg augmentation from the producers of Square Enix. Yes, that's the same Square that was the force behind making Final Fantasy. And on that note, I'll say thank you very much for listening to my fantastically absurd but potentially true story. And I guess we'll turn it over to questions.